Go. Hello and welcome to the first of several sessions of Agon. I'm probably saying that terribly wrong. I am from Indiana. And this is a game by John Harper and Sean Nittner. And it is a game about Greek heroes and legends. It's a very structured game. I'm going to talk about what that involves, give a little bit of the introduction in just a second. Before we get too far into that, my name is Lowell, pronouns he, him, and this is part of the Gauntlet Hangouts. You can find out more about the Gauntlet at gauntlet-rpg.com. When we have our people make up their characters, I'll have all our wonderful players introduce themselves at that point. But I want to talk about what it is that we're doing, the concept of this game. And they have actually a little thing. I'm going to read the before the first session bits here. And the pitch. The pitch is, in the midst of ancient time, a poet sings of great deeds wrought by mighty heroes, of monsters slain and justice restored, of wise counsel and devious strategies, of courage, valor, and daring, defiant of the gods themselves. In Agon, you create these heroes, crafting their epic tale into an immortal legend. On their way back home from war, a band of heroes has become lost among strange islands populated by mythical creatures, dangerous villains, legendary kingdoms, and desperate people, each engaged in strife at the mercy of the capricious gods. It falls to you, as the epic heroes of your age, to seize this opportunity for greatness, to set things right in these lost lands, overcome the trials of gods, monsters, and mortals, prove the glory of your name, and win your way back home. This is a game that, not unlike John Harper's earlier game, Blades in the Dark, has a very structured play setup. We begin with kind of the characters on a voyage, kind of setting up what's going on, and we establish a leader for the group for that session. There's an arrival at an island where we kind of define what is happening there. That will lead to conflicts as our PCs attempt to figure out how to solve the situation. Those conflicts will inevitably rise and lead to a battle against a great foe. And then afterwards, there's the accumulation of glory and the moving on to the next island. So that is the structure of play that we're going to see. The game has serious stakes. Each of these islands has people who are in desperate straits that need to be assisted. But we can play around. We can see where we feel in terms of the tone, in terms of how high heroic is, or if there is a little bit of comedy, as there are in the classic Greek stories in the midst of this. So we'll find our way to that. To help with the sort of maintaining the tone and to make sure that we're all on the same page about what we're doing, we are using several safety tools. We use a layered set of tools. The first of these is lines and veils. And for my PCs and my players, not the PCs, but players themselves, we have a spreadsheet that I put the link to that in the Zoom group chat. And this provides a spreadsheet that has a list of things, lines that are hard lines that we do not wish to engage with in play, and veils being anything that, should it appear, we will fade to black on those. Go ahead throughout this character creation process to take a look at those, add in anything you want. We'll stop and we'll check in and go through what those are before we actually get to play. To support that, we also use the X card. The X card can be used to mark out problematic behavior, language, objectionable material, things that are wildly off tone. These are all things that we can mark with the X card. We can do that verbally by saying X card. We can do the gesture like this, as I have done sometimes when people start talking about teeth stuff at the game. That's our second tool. It helps fill in the gaps with the lines and veils and things that we haven't necessarily covered, or things that we hadn't even realized were issues that we might need to deal with. And then the third thing that we have is, this is an open door policy. So if you need to step away from the table, you need to walk away, you can just turn off your camera, step away, no no need to explain why. If you want to say, I'll be right back or whatever, that's fine. But we understand the circumstances outside of the game, or because the game may affect it such that you would need to do that. So those are the three tools that we have available to us today. So I want to make sure now that everybody is able to, is everyone able to see the character sheets that are shown on the sidebar on the Roll20 sheet?
I can.
Okay.
Just
Dave?
see the picture of the ship.
Okay. Off to the far right hand side, and it should be under the journals. You have to click on that journal tab at the top, and it should pop up with some things for the players there at that point.
Dave, if you can't see those, you might, just to the right-hand side of the Zoom, there are 3 lines which give you access to the menu.
Aha!
Yeah.
Got you. So the journal, right? You can tell that I play on Roll20 like never.
Yeah, I rarely try to use it because it's so much more tech normally than we need.
Yeah, I can see it now. Right.
Okay. So yeah, what you should be able to do is open that up, and there are 3 tabs at the start: the bio and info, character sheet, and the attributes and abilities. The character sheet tab is what's going to be the place where you're going to put in the things for your character. It's essentially the character sheet from the player references there in that. So I'm going to walk through what the character creation process is with everyone, and talk about kind of what that means. I'm going to go through it, and you can fill in as you go on this, but I'll also give you some minutes to follow up when we've kind of gone through this. You will start, and I'm actually, just to make it easy for myself, I'm going to give myself a copy of the character sheet so I can take a look at this while it's up. I'll pull up Lakaruji Wayafosa is the name. Okay, let's see here. There we go. Character. Okay. So the first thing that you're going to decide is your epithet. Your epithet is something like the bright-eyed or the wise-handed. Your epithet is like a tag, like an aspect from other games that describe what they're about. And in the reference sheets, there are some examples of those epithets. And that will start at a D6, because you'll be building dice pools when you go to take actions. After that, you'll do the same sort of thing. You'll come up with your name and determine that. That will also be a D6. And then you will tell us your lineage. Are you the son or daughter, and who are you the son or daughter of? You can be the son or daughter, or they, them, if however you want to decide, the child of, the scion of a god, in which case you're a demigod, or of a notable mortal, in which case you're a mortal hero, and that will make a difference a little bit later. When you choose your lineage and pronouns, you're also going to choose a domain. You'll see that there are 4 domains for your characters. These are the sort of areas of influence, areas of skill: arts and oration, blood and valor, craft and reason, resolve and spirit. And different conflicts will use different of those. You'll choose one of those to be at a D8, and the other 3 will be at a D6. And feel free, if you want to, once we start introducing and players choose, if you want to discuss about what you're doing. you will choose an honored god. This is the god. It could be, if you're the child of a divinity, it could be your divine parent, or it could be something else. We have 12 gods listed there below that with the divine favor: Zeus, Aphrodite, Demeter, Hera, Hermes, Ares, Poseidon, Hephaestus, Hecate, Apollo, Artemis, and Athena. Your honored god, you will get the 2 diamonds that are by it are the 2 divine favor that you will have with them. And you can actually click on that on those little diamonds by it to show that those are the 2 divine favor that you have with that god. And then you will take 3 more divine favor to spread out amongst the other 12, the other 11 gods then, and you'll mark that below in that section on divine favor. And then the other thing you can define is why you look cool, your style, essentially what makes you look awesome. So what I'll let you do here is go ahead and fill that in when you're set, when you're like, okay, I'm ready to move on to talk about bonds and things like that. Or if then you can go ahead and type OK in the Zoom group chat or the Roll20 group chat, whichever you have, because we're going to have too many tabs. We're going to have way too many tabs today.
The Max Minner in me is wondering whether we want to talk about domains, because there are 4 domains and 4 of us.
That is.
Do we want to spread that D8 about?
You're more than welcome to do that.
I did craft and reason because I'm the many-wayed Nessus.
Dave?
I was also thinking of going craft and reason, but I might. I'll see what other people are thinking, and I might what's it that?
Anything you want to do, Alan?
Arts and oration appealed, and blood and valor as being the polar opposites of one another.
See, that was I was looking as well. It must be something to do with the Welsh spirit, right?
You can't sing it, hit it. So go on, you asked me, now I'll make you pick.
Yeah, I'll be blood and valor. Do you want my brothers again?
Oh no, certainly not twins. I've suffered enough. And Lowell, mechanically then, if is this a little bit like fate aspects? If that epithet is legitimate in this context, then you roll that d6.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
One of the nice things is, while a particular contest early on may be, okay, this is very clearly a contest of blood and valor or resolve in spirit, when we actually get to the battle, you'll be able to talk about, the big battle. You say, this is how I'm doing this thing, and you'll be able to choose what domain you want to be working within.
And again, in terms of filling out, so honored God, you pick one from the 12 below.
Yep, and you'll click on those 2 dots that are by it.
Okay, and then 2 other gods with 1 each. Or was it 3 other?
3 other gods.
Okay.
And then actually, you can actually double it up. It's 3 other dots to distribute out. So you could take 2 with a particular god after that.
Okay.
Okay, I think I'm done.
Okay.
The virtues on the bottom right make me think of Gladiator with the son weeping to the father. Your virtues aren't one that you had listed or whatever, you know?
I'm just picturing it as very, very, very consolidated Pendragon. So
I've never played that.
it has a lot of virtues. Also, for those of you who have backed the Kickstarter and so on, I will be using, for the most part, the islands that are in the back. And also, so if you're watching at home and you're like, oh, I want to play this, just know that you'll be exposed to sample islands that are contained within the volume itself. And also, if you're watching at home, Roll20 has these lovely character sheets. Someone went through a lot of effort to put these together. And so they're very nice.
Yeah, I know how expensive they are because I hit up this person to see how much they were, and it was too much for me. When I get that John Harper money, maybe I'll get it.
Yes. Well, the person who did those veil sheets for you, those are pretty nice. There's some
Yeah, they're very nice.
text contained things, but otherwise they're quite nice.
Yeah.
The wildest ones, I don't. The City of Mist is not a game. It's doing some things that I are not my speed as a GM, but the Roll20 character sheets for City of Mist are the most amazing things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Because they have cards, and the cards flip to do things, and it's I don't know how they did that.
Yeah. The Hack the Planet one's finally out now too, and it's pretty nice as well. But
Nice.
I would say the Blades in the Dark and Agon ones are a little bit above.
Yeah.
I can't imagine playing Band of Blades, especially without the without the Roll20 support.
Yeah.
Trying to track all of that on paper or whatever would be an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, there's just so much stuff in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Roll20. I've used it for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, I quite like. I think that, I guess the tactility of ripping up all of your rookies as they get murdered by
Yes,
the
there
undead
is
would
that.
probably be quite fun. But yeah,
I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to have Fraser introduce himself, and then I'll see who else is ready, and we'll have each of us introduce them. So, Fraser, tell us, who is your hero? What is their name? What do we know about them?
So my hero is the many-wayed Nasus, scion of Kaplitsky. I just made up some random name.
Okay.
Honored god of Hephaestus, and the divine favor other than that is Hera, Hermes, and I think that's it. I just doubled up on Hera.
So Hera is
pitched-
your favored.
Hephaestus is
Hephaestus.
ingenuity.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who are you the child of?
Kaplitsky.
Kaplitsky.
Yeah.
Is that a king? Is that a peasant? Who is Kaplitsky? Who is your parent?
Yeah, I picture them as like someone who did fairly well in a previous war, depending on when this is set. I don't know. Is this after?
It is timeless.
Oh, okay. Well, they were pretty good in a battle, in one of the big ones.
Mhm.
And so I'm sort of like a war hero, but I'm picturing them like a little bit on the older side, sort of like Hercules, where they use their cunning. I have written older and cunning like Hercules, but better in terms of not running away from most everything, including straight conflict.
And so what do you, how do you imagine what do they look like?
They have like a whitened beard with brown hair. They are like pretty solidly built, but probably a little bit slighter. They're not like Ajax or anything like that. And I picture them as like a spear wielder. Get some distance on people so they can't get up close to them.
And your favorite god is Hephaestus. Do you imagine that you are a craftsperson as well? Like, do you craft things, or are you more of a thinker?
Yeah, I think I'm a thinker.
Okay.
And oh yeah, and I my other three little things was Hera, Hermes, and Apollo. Those are the three other ones.
Okay.
So I got some knowledge, some daring, and some cunning.
Are you an only child?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. So you're not a demigod, which means that for bonds, once everyone's introduced themselves, you're going to write down 2 bonds with each of your fellow compatriots here.
With each of them.
With
Okay.
each of them, 2 bonds each. All right. Calixis, are you ready to introduce yourself?
Probably as ready as I'll ever be.
Okay.
But I'm Alan, pronouns he, him, and I am going to be silver-tongued Calixis, who is also he, him. Calixis is a scion of Zeus, so it probably means my mother is a swan. And my honored god is his wife Hera, who I've just noticed I've written down as he, him. That is she, her. And the divine favors I've distributed about, significantly not to my father. I have a favor from Hermes to do with daring, Aphrodite to do with beauty, because I am a smasher, and Athena to do with wisdom.
If were you raised by your mother? Were you raised by another person?
I think that having been born of a swan, I think I was then raised by looking as a good name, Trifania, who was a shepherdess.
And when did you come to know your divine heritage? Right away? Did people know right away that you were destined for great things?
I think that someone in my village killed a swan, and we were about to feast upon the swan when Zeus appeared and stopped me doing it and informed me that it was my mother.
Ooh.
And because I listened to the Stephen Fry Audible, I know that eating relatives is a bad thing.
It is the worst.
It is the worst thing.
The second worst being crimes against guests. So what do you look like then? Beautiful, but how do we know that you come from this Zeusian Swanian lineage?
I think that I have long white hair, and I think I'm very pale. That's the swan lineage. And perhaps if you look very carefully when I grow a beard, the beard is feathered. Yes, and I think perhaps, yeah, but you want something Zeusian, don't you?
No, I'm good with
All right with
the
the swan. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Nassus is a little bit older. Are you fairly young, middle 20s? What are you imagining?
I think I'm young. I think that this war we're returning from was my first outing. So Zeus reveals himself and tells me I must go to war to prove myself.
Especially after nibbling your mom.
Almost. All right. And so as a demigod, you will take one bond with each of your fellows, and then one bond with Zeus. And then let's hear about Aila. How do we want to say that?
Just disappeared.
Oh,
Sorry, I've just changed that just to be. I was looking at Amazonian names.
Oh, okay. So Tosophone?
Yeah, Toxophone.
Toxophone. All right, let's hear about Toxophone.
Toxophone, the pure-hearted, is a scion of Demeter, and her honored god is Hermes. It's a she, her, because felt like we needed someone of a different gender in the group. So Hermes is my honored god. But I have divine flavor from the ferocious Ares, the conviction of Demeter, so my mum likes me, and the precision of Artemis. Toxophone is one of the Amazon names. It's a name for whizzing arrow, if we were to translate it. But she's a tall, lithe woman with black skin, pale blue eyes, cropped short hair, and a warrior's physique. She is an archer and has probably always known that she was blessed of, or a child of a god, but has been raised to hunt and raised to fight in an Amazonian way.
How did you come to be an Amazonian? Is that where Demeter deposited you, or were you taken as some children are in different wars and things? How did that happen?
Let's say deposited by into their care.
Raised by the queen, or just raised as one among many, do you think?
Raised as one among many.
Okay.
Yeah, she was from I think a sort of a traveling mercenary type family as they got into all sorts of wars.
And let me ask you, do you have any visible sign or mark or bearing that tells us that you're a child of Demeter?
I think that's the very pale blue eyes, which are this is a black woman with extremely pale blue eyes, so they stand out with a strange look.
Awesome. And as a scion of a god, you will get one bond with each of your fellow compatriots, and then one bond with your mother, Demeter.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings us to Melanthius.
Yes. So Melanthius, the Shadow Cloaked, is a scion of Hecate. He is he is a scion of Hecate, and following that, Hecate is the god he honors most. He is his domain is that of resolve and spirit, and he has long dark hair that kind of comes down over his face like the fall of night. His skin is pale like the surface of a marble sarcophagus, and he is wreathed in robes of mourning that conceal beneath them a wicked sharp knife. He is a he's kind of an oracle type figure. I think he was grew up amongst a sort of religious community of worshippers of his divine mother, and set sail to war to sort of shepherd the dying and ensure that fate came to pass as it should.
How do people do you tell them who your divine parent is, or what do you, how do I put this, how do people perceive you in that relationship?
I think that I think that it is quite. I think that the mark of his mother's power on him is quite obvious, and people tend to react to it. I think there's possibly an element of wariness generally in how people deal with him. He doesn't particularly hide his parentage, and he is personally proud of his inheritance, of course, but obviously at the same time being overly boastful about it is a sure path to hubris.
Absolutely. So you will take one bond with each of your compatriots and one bond with your divine parent. So the way that this works is when we start out on our voyage, normally we would do a fellowship phase, where we kind of establish additional bonds, and I think it's probably worth it to kind of enhance on those. Essentially, we're going to go around, and each of you is going to ask a question to another one of your fellow heroes, and then each of you will gain a bond with them. Let me give you some examples that the book has for questions that you might ask, like what's your best memory of home? What did you think of the land that we're leaving? What do you yearn for? What drives you? What do you think of the gods? This is the fellowship phase, and in the start, this would be the place where we would move our marks for pathos. So Nassus, let me have you ask one of your fellows a question of that sort. What do you want to know about one of the others?
I want to know what the relationship with Calaxis's relationship with their father, if it's like very favored, or just like sometimes he acknowledges you, that kind of thing.
I think that Zeus revealed himself to me to save me from eating my mother. It was more about honoring my mother than honoring me.
Mm.
And that's why he owes me no favor. So, and I think that Hera has taken a liking to me simply to thumb her nose at her husband.
Don't piss her off.
That seems right. So each of you may take an additional bond with one another. Calaxis,
Does that mean I take 3 then?
Yeah.
3? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I started with 1. I take a second one.
Yep. And then you may ask a question of one of your fellows.
Yes, my question is of Melanthios. How can you bear to wear black all the time?
There are more important things in life than the outward shows of wealth and luxury that we make. It is a losing the word. I don't mean a taboo, but it's it's a burden I bear lightly because it's of all the sacrifices we might be asked to make for the gods. It is perhaps the least.
Calixtus walks away shaking his head as if to say, God, he is going to be such dull company.
And you may each add a bond with one another onto your sheet. Toxophone, what is your question? Who do you wish to address that to?
I would like to ask this question of Nessus, which is, how did you come to be traveling in the company of 3 demigods?
My dad was really cool. I have a lot to prove, apparently. I was just thinking the same thing. I was like, damn.
You can go to war, but only if you take my kid with you. No.
Yeah. I wonder, maybe to expound on it, maybe, I don't remember what it is like too much, but is it possible that maybe my father, after he retired from the war, is like a shipbuilder, so maybe I have like a little bit of clout in that way, that I'm like sailing on the ship that my father built as well.
I like
Otherwise, maybe I wouldn't have made it on there. They would have been like, you ride back there.
that. What's your father's name?
The Capixi. Capixi. We'll just
Capixi.
go with that, Capixi, instead of the
I'm just
additional.
going to make you say it repeatedly until we get it. Yeah, Capixi. It's like K-pop, but Capixi. Okay, and so you each may take a bond with one another there. And then last but not least, Lanthius, let's have you ask a question.
Yeah. So, Toxophony, who was your greatest victory against in the war we are returning from, and how did you defeat them?
Their name was Galen, and they were a They were a scion of, let's see, they were a scion of uh, Ares, known for their fury on the battlefield, that no one had been able to break their sword and shield in combat. But the pride I have is that to engage in sword and shield is to have failed. So I shot him from afar like an animal and dealt with him in that way. He was not worth my time.
Perfect. So you may each gain a bond with one another. Nasus said that we should name the war, so I've named the war the Siege of Charax is what we're going to call it. That was the conflict, and we'll figure out about that. We're going to do one roll resolution, and then we're going to take our break here. At the start, what we do is there is a contest of leadership to determine who kind of gets the final say about how things get resolved on the island when we go to this next island. And the way this works is, in this case, we've talked about that your ship has kind of gone off course, and you are in the wine dark, storm-tossed seas, and you're trying to keep the ship steady and moving, even as you realize that you've been pushed and dashed towards some rocks, and so you're trying to pull yourself out of that. And how the way this works is, I roll for this leadership contest, and it's always just for me 2d6, and so I'm going to roll those 2d6, and we take the difficulty there, which is just a 3. So this is not so storm-tossed as it might otherwise be. And this is going to be a contest of, I think in this case, it's going to be a question of resolve and spirit. So the way this works in a contest is we go around and I'm going to slowly walk through this process. I'm going to get to my pages here so we can make sure I'm getting this right. I have described the threat. If this were like a real contest, not just a leadership one, I would be naming your foe, and we'd be assigning dice for that. But we have the difficulty there, which is just the 3, and then I go and you're going to speak your name, and you're going to get your die for that, which would be a d6. And then if your epithet applies in the contest, you're going to grab that die, and you're going to also grab the die for the domain. There's some additional things you can spend on or do too, but let's stick with those basic things: the epithet, the name, and the domain here. So let's start with you, Nasus. Give us your story here.
Okay, so, and this is how we're competing the storm?
Yes, this is how you're battling against the storm here, to see who is the greatest amongst you in this contest against the storm.
Okay, and it's me displaying in a way that I'm trying to be the best of everyone, right? Like it's like a contest, right?
Yes. So you say your name. Tell us if your epithet applies, and then you're going to roll your die for your name. You're going to roll your die for resolve and spirit, and if your epithet worked, then you get to roll die for that.
Oh, if it worked. Okay. So Nasus, the many-wayed, I think it will apply. I hope it will.
Yes, tell us how it applies here.
Yeah, I want, I think the crew start like sort of freaking out and rowing really fast and hard. And instead I go to the front and I use some sort of, maybe I use a short sword and shield, and I start banging into a rhythm to get them to like not waste themselves and develop some sort of like cross current against this storm.
Perfect. So it looks to me like you're going to be rolling 3d6,
Okay.
and you're going to take the highest.
6.
Six. So you have a 6 right now. We see you battling along, beating the shield and the sword together to keep the time. Calaxis, what about you?
I think we see Calixis stand gripping the mast, and he says, I am silver-tongued Calixis, sire of Zeus, who has sent this storm to test us all, for I know my father will not desert me now. And I would like to claim that silver-tongued applies, my name applies. How does the bond to my father work?
So the bond to your father, if you wanted to spend that, you could spend that, you'd mark it, and then you would get a copy of your, essentially an additional copy of your own name die. You would get another one.
Okay. Well, no, I won't call that one in yet then. So I think if this is resolved, that's 3d6.
Yep.
Hang on, have I?
What have I done wrong? Roll 3d6. Or there's also on the upper left, there's little buttons for rolling dice.
Upper left. Aha. So the best I managed is a 5.
It's 5. Excellent. And then what about, as you are calling out, doing that, Toxophone, what is it? How are you facing this?
Toxophone, the pure-hearted, spots that as the ship lists on Tor Wave, we would have lost some of the oarsmen over the side. But she braces her feet and holds them steady, making sure that no crew are lost.
Excellent. Yeah, that feels like a good use of your epithet there. D6 for that, D6 for your name, and what is your domain?
My domain is blood and valor.
So we use and resolve a spirit, so 3d6.
It's a 4, 3, and a 2. That's 9.
So a 4 is your highest.
Yeah.
And last but not least, let us see what the situation calls for from Melanthios.
As the skies darken under the roiling storm, Melanthius, the shadow-cloaked, steps forwards and calls for all the lights on the ship to be dimmed. Your oars are in hand. You have no need to see them. Should they leave your hands, all will be lost anyway. Keep your eyes on the horizon. There will be a light to guide us.
Excellent. And roll your dice, and I think you get a D8 for your domain this time, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Oops, I didn't like the D8, I don't think. I'll try that again. No. That's also a 6.
That is also a 6. I think the total roll is still higher on Fraser. So this means that when we go into this, that Onassis, the wise, the human, the one without the divine parentage is going to be the one who, when it comes to questions of leadership, will kind of set that. It is possible to take that leadership away in play. You can spend a bond. to take the leadership and seize carpe diem, the day, as it were, on this. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a break here. Let's go to about 10 after. We'll come back and we'll get set onto this first island, okay? All right. So you've been at sea, you've weathered this storm. Before I go any further, I told myself I was going to remember to do this, and then I forgot to do it, but let me do it now. Let me talk about our lines and veils that have been established so far. What we have on the table right now is lines and veils for this play, and again, it's a living document. This can change as we go along. Right now, our lines are on epidemics, harm to children, homophobia, racism, sexual assault, and torture. So those are things that are off the table for the kinds of stories that we're telling. And then we have veils, which means that if it does appear, we're going to fade to black on it. We're going to darken it and put a veil over it. And that is eye injuries, graphic gore, sexual content, and slavery are all things that will fade away from if those issues were to pop up. Now, with all that in mind, you've been traveling from the siege of Charax together on boat. You've weathered this storm, and you've traveled further, and your navigator has been able to assay where you are and determine that you are close to the island of Cryos. And what you will know about Cryos is that Cryos is a cold, a rocky island. It is supposed to have great gold mines on it. And in legend, there is a ring of everlasting storm clouds that keep the land's riches safe from marauders, which may make it a challenge to get to, but it is the island that is closest to where you are at right now. As you have come closer to it, you have noted that the mists around your ship have begun to recede, and in the course of this, you have had some visions. I believe it is Calaxis Hera that is associated with you. You have her as a favored goddess. And so I think there is a moment as you are traveling there in these last days, as the mist is starting to clear, that you will have a vision that will come to you of the bird that is sacred to her, the peacock. You will see a vision of that, and you know that the peacock, her vision, her touch is about restoring to the pious what has been lost. That is the sign that you receive. And then I believe that see here, Toxophone, you have as your favored god Hermes, the god of thieves. And I think that your vision is in a somewhat different direction, that you'll be sent a vision of Hermes' raven, and it seated upon a bounty of riches, the spoils that are there for those who deserve them. And then Nassus, you are the presently the sort of the leader of the expedition. And I think the vision that you will have is of the sign of Zeus, the Lord of the sky. And in your mind's eye, as you are Mr. Crushing, you see ruins. You see the works of man brought low, stones and pillars dashed into the sea. And this is the kind of thing, these visions that all of you would describe and discuss with one another. So how would you phrase what you have seen, Toxophone, to your comrades?
We will be guided by a black raven. What color are the storm clouds, may I ask?
Right now, the clouds that you're seeing that are beginning to part are that kind of gray that are fading to kind of white as the storm is losing its intensity, the mist and the storm that you've just been in.
That's exactly what I can see out of my window at this present moment in time. Have you got a camera in my room?
Well, you're in. You
Yeah.
are in Great Britain, so
Yes, it's so yeah. I think yeah. I say there will be a raven, and there will be black clouds, and there will be treasure that is for those that deserve it.
And Calaxis, how do you describe your vision?
And those that deserve it, my friends, will be the pious. Because here is revealed to me that we can do good here by restoring to the pious that which they have lost.
And Nassus, what do you speak of?
Hubris has destroyed this place, at least part of it. Ruins abound.
And these visions are put into the hands of all of you, but in the end, it will be up to the leader to take these points and somehow figure out what it means in terms of what the gods wish and desire on these things. So that is out there.
So is it kind of like tarot cards? Is that kind of like what it is?
That's not a bad way to read it. These are portents. These are signs that are given to you to interpret and to justify your choices at the end. But at this moment, Melanthius, you are up towards the, I'm about to show my absolute inland ignorance, prow, the front of the ship, and you are looking forward. And as the mists clear, you can make out this island where you can definitely see some of the signs of mines, and maybe even some of the smoke maybe rising from smelters, but there are no signs of these fabled storm clouds that supposedly surround the island. And in fact, from where you're at, kind of looking, it gave this clear vision of this. You can see the shores where boats would put in and so on, and the mining complexes, and it looks like there's chaos. Like there are people running around, lamentations, all kinds of looks like a disturbance going on in the island. What would you do, Melanthius?
It seems that the storms have stilled. Strife has visited these people. I suppose we should see what affects them so. And I think he's going to call out to the helmsman to steer us in towards the dock. As he stands sort of impassive on the prow, trying to kind of get an impression of what's going on in this upheaval.
And as your ship turns, catches the wind, the rowers will turn you in. I'm assuming just a simple trireme as you head in. You will see people on the shoreline at first look like they see you coming and they're clearly terrified. But after a moment, they seem to realize that it is just one ship. and some calm seems to be restored. It definitely looks like there's different groups of people kind of having an argument. You'll see one group looks like maybe the miners, that there's a woman seems to be leading them. There's some argument going on between another group that seems to be maybe one of the priests of the temple here, and some of the locals behind them, and that seems to be where the big disturbance is going on. And as your ship pulls up, you will see a few of the locals come running up, and will one of them, perhaps maybe an elder of the town here, will shout, "Who are you? Who are you people? Why have you come here at this time?"
We are returning from Charax and seeking food and water before we continue on our journey. You seem to be troubled.
Charax is days and days away. How did you come to be here at this time? Is this deliberate?
Perhaps it was fate that brought us here.
I think I just whisper in Nasus's ears. You never start conversations with strangers with a guy with a miserable face dressed in black. I'm just saying that. This is not creating the impression we would like.
Well, at least when we speak, they'll be happy.
If we get a chance.
You will see that a number of the locals have. At first, you're worried that they're coming for you. They've gotten out bows and they've kind of have started to move around, but it doesn't seem to be like aimed towards you. They're actually kind of moving and kind of trying to find some high ground positions and things like that. You're not sure what's going on, but you will see this woman, this minor woman, kind of sees the edge of things and moves up to where you're at, and looks at you, Nasus. You have, for the moment, the bearing of a leader. And she says, did you see the pirate queen?
All we saw was Zeus's lightning bolts and a strong wind.
You have come at a most inauspicious time. We've been robbed of our guardianship. The pirates have come and have stolen the storm clouds which protected our island, and now we all must find a way to defend ourselves as is right and proper. Perhaps you four stout fellows, ladies, will come and will aid us in this endeavor. And it looks like there's some of the other mining people are like, yeah. While the other group with the priest, this whatever speech is going on here seems to like he's not well pleased with what is being discussed there.
The priest is?
The priest is not happy with that tone of that conversation.
Can we tell what the priest is a worshiper of?
It looks like, based on the clothing and the garb, that he is a priest of Hera.
Oh. Someone's pissing off Hera. That's not good. Okay. Where have you seen these pirates come and go? How do you know it was them? Where have they gone?
So I assume you will disembark to speak with this woman. She's the first one who came up, and she will say,
"Sure.
Let's do that, and then we'll kind of do a once around and see what other people are asking." She will say, "My name is Militia. I am the chief of the mines here. We heard the noise, the cracking of the thunder, and then we saw these pirates making away in their boat. They had taken the stone that our storms were lashed to, and they had headed out. They're certainly far beyond our ability to catch, or beyond the ability of anyone else. So we must now look to our own defenses. Perhaps your assistance can set us on the right path. Calaxis, what are you doing?
I think I talk to Toxophone and I say, this child of mortals should not be leading us. It is obvious we must find the pirates, return the ring, and do as hero would wish. What do you think?
I think we should speak to the ones who are about to point arrows at us. If you paid more attention to the deeds of your foes rather than whispering secrets into people's ears, Calaxis, you may be of more use to us. And Toxophone will stalk across to the priest with her. I think her bow is still on her back, but she sort of smiles with a row of white teeth at each one of the would-be warriors attempting to point arrows at her.
You will realize as you approach that they're certainly not pointing at you. They are scanning the skies for a threat, rather than now that they've settled up, than aiming it all towards you.
Tell me your name, Priest of Hera.
I am Eonstes. We are well met. What is your name, warrior woman?
I am Toxophone the Pure-Hearted, daughter of Demeter.
Oh, then we are well met, daughter of the earth. You have clearly been sent here in our time of trial and need. A great blasphemy has been committed. The stone that protected our island has been stolen from the temple of Hera. And now we must turn to Hera to provide for us. We must restore the stone, and we must turn the wealth and strength of this island to restoring and improving the temple. That is the only way that we will be safe.
And who would have stolen the stone from you, and why?
He said that the pirate queen herself, Theskeria, her ship was seen here. It is believed that she sent a shore raiding party, stole it for her own ends, and made her way out to sea.
And why, Eustanis, do your people point their bows to the skies? What do they fear will come for you?
And I think that's when you'll hear the first screech. And while they don't approach yet, you will see in the distance the circling, and Ionestes will point. It goes, them, the harpies. Without the storm, they will come and they will take all of the riches of this island, the riches that those, and he gestures at the mining people, wish to protect and hold. No, we must turn to the gods to save us from these things.
Don't worry, you have my bow, and Calaxis will convince them that they don't have wings.
there's a kind of a puzzled look on their face as you say that. Let's Melanthius, let me check in with you before we get to this first sort of conflict that's going to happen as this scouting party of harpies approaches.
Yeah, I think as kind of the others have sort of started to meet with the locals, and we start to see these harpies circling, Melanthius is going to slip off over the boat, off the pier, and walk down onto the beach. And he picks up 3 pebbles from the beach and casts them out, skipping them across the waves and staring at them with a look of portent.
They certainly, you attempt to seem eerie and strange, and the people here who have not seen any heroes such as you will give you a wide berth. And the 4 of you then will hear the screeching, and you will see clearly not the full force of these harpies, but a reasonable band of them catch the winds and begin to circle and dive down towards the village here. The locals fire arrows, but they have no hope of penetrating the steely hide of these beasts. They maybe catch in a feather. They shatter against their chests. The wings spread out. There's the foul smell that comes on the wind from them of decay and feces and so on. They are avengers, awful things, and so they will begin to descend and attack the village. So this is our first conflict, our first real conflict. And right now, this is a conflict of blood and valor against the harpies here. These are the agents of vengeance, the harpies. As such, they have a D8 for their name, and they have steely hides that protect them in the sky, and I'm going to give them an additional D8 for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll 2 D8, and I add the strife level to that. The strife level is by default right now at 5. So what I do is I roll 2 D8. I take the highest of those, and that is an 8. So right now, these harpies descending down in this conflict, again, of blood and valor, will be fighting you with a 13 as the difficulty. So how this works, it is much like we did before. You will face your opponent, and we will do your conflict. This is a conflict of blood and valor. Strife, me, the GM, sets those stage. You can use your name and your epithet, and if you had particular advantages, you could use that. Now, the other thing that you can do, we talk about the other things that you can invoke to get yourself bonuses on this roll. You can mark pathos. That's a resource that you have to give yourself a die from another domain, so a second die. You can invoke divine favor. If you invoke divine favor, you'll choose one of the strengths of one of the gods that are with you, and you will get a D4, and a D4 is special. You can spend a bond with one of your fellows and ask them, for their assistance, and it doesn't take a die from them. You just spend the bond, and you get a die equal to their name. So usually a D6 in this case. And then if you have advantage, you will be able to take that. Now, when we go to this contest, you are going to then roll your dice. You're going to sum your 2 highest rolls. And then if you had a D4 in there, you're going to add that D4's number to the roll. So let's say you rolled 2d6 plus a D4. You rolled a 7 on the D4 and a 3. 3 on the D4 and like a 7 on the 2d6s total. You'd end up with a 10. And then you're trying to meet a 13 or beat a 13. So Nassus, you were the leader. Let's start with you. Tell me how you're building your thing. Who will you face this contest? And here's the thing. You don't have to face this contest. You could opt to support. If you decided to support, you would give a copy of your domain die to a hero of your choosing. They would gain a bond, the supporting hero would gain a bond, and you would also gain 1 glory.
Okay.
So what do you want to do?
I'm gonna fight because Calixtus is already throwing shade. I got to put up.
Let's hear your name, who you are, your epithet, and what else you're calling on.
So Nassus is going to. My epithet is many-wayed, and I'm going to use my spear and my shield for this task. And what I do is I want to wait for them to dive and then use my shield and well, I'll do exactly like your background there. I'm gonna stab it when it comes at me.
So that seems like right now we're standing with, you're going to be rolling 3d6, right?
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to get everybody else's dice resolved, and then we're going to have everybody roll.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Calaxis, tell me what you're doing.
I begin to play my harp and sing, because music doth soothe the savage beast, and I'm going to try to line them up for Toxophone to put an arrow through at least 3 of them. If I can lend Toxophone my arts and oration dice. Perfect.
You'll gain a bond, and at the end you're going to get a glory, and Toxophone will get, I believe there's a D8 for you, right?
That is a D8.
Okay. Then let's come to Toxophone.
Why have a dog and bark yourself?
Absolutely. Toxophone, let's tell us about your dice. You are muted, though.
Toxophone, the pure-hearted, will take a stand in front of the villagers and draw back her bow, calling upon Artemis to guide her bow with precision. Excellent.
So you'll get your dice for your epithet, for your name. You'll get your D8 for your blood and valor, your additional D8 for Calaxis's assistance, and you'll also be rolling a D4. And then what about our dark Melanthius?
Yeah, so I think for just a moment we see the ripples spreading out from where he threw the stones, but then the water starts to boil, and clouds start to form from it, dark, heavy storm clouds, but kind of just just about skimming the water, and they wrap around him, and then he casts them up to blind and confuse the harpies as they come in. So I would like to take a point of pathos to bring my resolve and spirit domain into this as well.
Perfect. Yeah, so you have your name die, your epithet, you'll have your blood and valor, and you'll have your resolve and spirit. Let's have everyone roll those dice. All right. So Nasus, you had 3d6, right?
Yeah, 3d6.
What are your two highest?
4 and a 2.
4 and a 2. So that is
Yeah.
a 6 is your total, right?
Yeah, and I'm supposed to try to beat 13.
Yes, 13 or better.
Whoops.
So you will suffer harm. We'll come back to that in just a moment here. Actually, so this is a perilous foe. So I'll need you to mark a point of pathos that you will suffer as a result of this. And tell me what that looks like. Why does it not quite? It does not quite work for you. You're not able to bring to bear what you would like.
I think 2 of them come down, and one rips away the shield, and then the other one like uses its talons to rake at my arm.
Absolutely. And then Toxophone, what was your total then?
My highest was a 6 and a 3, but the gods were with me, and that was a 4. So that takes me to 13.
13. And what about for you, Melanthios?
My highest were a 6 and an 8 for a 14.
So the two of you, Toxophone, you are not quite as spectacular as Melanthios, but only by a hair. So describe to me, Toxophone, what we see here on stage. Widescreen.
Toxophone made the mistake of letting the Calaxis and tried to take out 3 of them at once. Unfortunately, the shot was not quite strong enough, and she only struck one as one dashed down and struck at Nasus.
But you're still your arrows fly in the sky and will drive some of them back. You are successful in this, and what do we see, Melanthios? How is your strike even more effective?
Yeah, I think that the lost in the dark clouds and already unnerved by the deadly accuracy of Toxophony, the harpies turn on each other, whether by intent or ill fortune, and they tear it. They crash into each other and rake at each other with their claws. One of them crashes into the side of one of the big stone buildings by the dockside.
Their screeches are heard. As they smash into it, they knock things down. 2 of you succeeded, and so only a few of the villagers here are harmed. But you will drive them off, and to the gasps of the locals who will cheer you. Melanthios, you had the highest value in this, so you will gain glory equal to the target number, which was 13. You gain 13 glory. Toxophone, you gain half that, rounded up, so you will gain 7. Calaxis, you assisted, so you gain that bond that you wished, and you also gain a glory. And then Nasus, you suffered, but you participated, so you will get a glory.
Yeah. So what does glory do?
Glory is your XP.
Okay. And I'm guessing when I max out pathos, agony is bad. I die or close to it?
Yeah, things get bad.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll come back to talk about that. Essentially, there are the harm that you take varies, but it can be marking your pathos, requiring you to spend a divine favor. Those are the classic ones that will happen there. So the locals are picking up the wounded. They're moving them to places. The mines, you will the woman who's the leader of the mines will hear her shout out, and she will say, "This is Melidia." She will say, "See, we can do this on our own. We have no need for the gods to save us, for these things to save us. We can protect ourselves." And you will tell that that seems to be the key argument, and the camps kind of split in different directions. Toxophone, the priest does kind of come to over to where you're at and where Calaxis, who's been playing, is at, and will say, "You have saved us for now, but I fear what will come unless these people turn to the gods."
You are quite right. I've forgotten his name. Ioanastes. We must bring them back to Hera. Why have they drifted from belief in the gods?
But Melidia has long argued that we cannot be at the whims of the gods, that we cannot count on them for our protection, despite the evidence that we can, that the storms have been with us for this long and have protected us for this long. But she speaks heresy.
And did the gods not bring us here?
Exactly. My point exactly. She's a fool. She cannot see what is before her eyes. She has called out against the gods for so long, and has pushed at us, and has not given proper honor to the temple. And you see he's kind of desperate now. He needs someone to deal with her to protect this island.
Seems correct. This woman is an apostate. Let's take the apostate to the highest hill where the clouds once were and throw her from it to appease the gods.
Yeah, yes, and he seems down with that.
And then another miner will rise. The miners must be brought to ignore her and believe in the gods.
Point to the cliff. The cliff is steep. Many may fall.
Perhaps.
And if all the miners die, the gold will. Toxophone, there are different shaped nails. You do not always need the same hammer.
I have 22 kicks.
Let me come back to this scene with you and Ioanastes. The chief of the miners will come over to where you're at, Nasus, and she will say, you're injured.
Red is the color of the gods. It's fine.
I see your friends are talking with that fool Ioanastes. Please come with me. He looks above and does not consider what is here before us. We must clean those wounds so they do not become blackened and ill. Come with me, and I will take you to the house of the miners.
You speak sense.
And she'll turn, what of your dark and brooding friend?
I've learned that all we can do is invite. Sometimes they come, sometimes they don't.
Are you well, good Sura?
I am quite well, thank you.
You have done us a great service this day. Will you come and break bread with us?
Yes, thank you.
We have some wine, perhaps watered with some honey. We'll quench your thirsts.
Yes, it has been some time since I have sat at a table that does not rock with the waves.
And she will move to kind of lead Nassus and Melanthius in away. So, Calaxis Toxophone, the priest is very much would very much like you to, perhaps you could bring the will of the gods here, impose rightness and order as is needed.
Let's go and talk to her, Toxophone. I see that she's offering our comrades hospitality.
We are the will of the gods, Calaxis.
I have no words to describe such arrogance, Toxophone. And I have a lot of words.
Nothing will prove my divinity greater than striking you wordless.
Come, let's talk to the woman.
Fine, we will talk, but if I don't like what I hear, I will throw her from a mountain.
And so I think we join the end of the little kind of crocodile heading for honeyed wine.
They will walk again, great cliffs. This is a mining town. Everything has that kind of fine layer of ash and dust on it. There is some scrub lands here too. Looks like it's mostly fishing and a little bit of gardens here to supply extras. Probably some olive trees here and there scattered throughout. But she'll walk you up to what is clearly like the gathering house for the miners at the top. And this is mostly sort of open pit mining, a few tunnels in, but nothing too sophisticated. But the house is set up, and it is a modest meal, but it is well presented. They will bring the miners' physician over, who seems more used to treating falls and people being struck by falling rocks than they are with the claws of a harpy. But they will clean and wrap your wounds as best they can, Nassus.
And I say I can only be thankful that my thinking part was not damaged, and I rub my stomach.
Oh, and food is brought to you. Some of the younger kids will kind of are staring at the edges. You are all very clearly heroes. They are amazed to see the likes of you here. And wine is brought to your hands, Malathios.
I'm beginning to suspect demigods live a better life.
Yeah, and Malathios will take the cup with both hands and nod to Militia and say, "Thank you," and he'll take a sip. Most delicious. I am sorry, completely lost my train of thought there.
Yeah.
I am it seems that our arrival here was most fortuitous. This this theft from your people, when did it happen?
Last night, which is why your arrival is so fated and auspicious.
Quite so. And I think, I'll sort of glance over to Nassus and say, I suppose this so-called pirate queen might still be close enough that we could catch them if we can ascertain their whereabouts.
I agree. We should go after them. Otherwise, the gods will be angry.
And Melitia goes, if you leave, the harpies will return and we will be defenseless. We must stay and train our people.
I fear that this is not our road to tread. I applaud your efforts at training yourself, at seeking to better yourself and take your fate into your own hands, but our time here is limited.
Surely Hera was protecting you for a reason. Is there no caves that you could shelter in as we go on this quest?
There are, but who knows how long we can survive in those, or what will come of these things. Taxophone, Calaxis, what is you're kind of, I assume you're hearing this conversation. You know, you've got the harpies, you've got the temple, you've got the Melitia speaking such strange words. What's your take on this, Calaxis?
Oh, I was going to wait to see what Toxophone said, actually.
Then let us see what Toxophone says.
Toxophone is first of all deeply concerned that Calaxis has not whispered something into their ear and fears they are poisoned. But I think why shouldn't we train them? Why is that not our purpose? They weren't strong enough to hold the cloud. It was taken from them. We could return it from them, but it will be taken again. Surely it is a greater deed that we could do is to teach them to defend themselves against the harpies and the threats that will come from the sea.
But we have a captain.
We are not on a boat.
If Hera's things are taken, you and I both know that she will be angry.
Unless it was Zeus who had them taken.
Arguably, she'll be more angry.
I think I want to start singing a song of the power of the gods, and I'm aiming at the audience, not Melitia. I want to try and get the miners as a whole on side. For their security relies in the gods. It doesn't rely in themselves.
I think that's perfect. I think that you are speaking to the miners of Cryos, and I do think that they have been listening to the words of Melitia for some time. So I think that is the challenge that you're going to face in this. So that's going to be 2d6, which is a 4 is the highest. Strife level is 5. So the difficulty right now, the challenge number is a 9. So Calaxis, this does seem to me like a arts and oration challenge, right?
Yes, for I am silver-tongued Calixis, and I will refer not only to the siege that we won, but I will turn to each hero in turn and speak of mighty Theud Toxophone, an Amazon, bread of gods. I will turn to Melanthia, Melanthius, and say, though he is dressed in mourning weeds, he is blessed of Hecate. Did you not see what the power of the gods brought to your island? And then I'll turn to Nasus, and I will say, and here is a mortal. And yet his belief in the gods brings him to you among heroes. Now, what I'm trying to do there is to see whether anybody wants to take that, billing and just do a bit of demonstrable domain D8.
Anyone here amongst the other three of you wish to lend your aid, gain a bond,
Quick
and
demonstration.
gain glory?
Sure.
Okay. So give yourself a bond with Calaxis and gain a glory, and giving you a D8, Calaxis.
I look at Toxophone and Melanthius as if to say, are you not going to step into the space the mortal has stepped into?
Yeah, I got nothing to prove. I already know I'm divine.
So it'll be 2d6 and 2d8 for you, Calaxis.
Okay, and so slash roll 2d6 plus 2d8.
Yeah, and I'm going to calculate the other people's dice first. So we see.
Oh, I see.
Let me see that first. Toxophone, what are you doing? How are you entering into this challenge, or are you lending your assistance? This is one of
no, I'm not.
narration.
Toxophone is this is sophistry. When there is her deeds or actions, she's already stated. No need for sophistry from Toxophone.
So how are you? So how do you want to do the roll here?
So I have to enter into the challenge. Is that
so here's the choices right now. So the challenge state right now is on arts and oration, unless you spend to change that, otherwise you can kind of sit out and assist, in which case you get a glory. Blah, 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 blah. In which case we go the other direction. Yes, yeah.
So
where does your strength lie in this conversation?
I think with
For did it not take all of us to bring the walls of Chrysos down?
It only took one of us to make the crack and let the rest of us in, like her apostate words. So I will be. I don't know if that's. It's pure-hearted in the fact I think she's evil. My name has been raised, but I'll be using arts and oration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that'll be a 3d6. Yeah. And what of Melanthius?
Melanthius leans back a bit in his chair, and shrugs down sort of the hood as he kind of makes eye contact with the militia, and his eyes are golden, like a pair of coins rimmed in dark coal, and he says, "The power of the gods is without compare. There is no mortal strength its equal, but my mother teaches that we must take power for ourselves, take it where it may be found, and use it. There is no shame. There is no it is not a weakness to seek out the power of the gods, to seek their blessing, to seek their fortune. It is, but we must all take our own choices and our own steps on the path to our fate.
So that feels like you are using arts and oration in this.
Yep.
And your name, are you calling on divine favor, or are you spending to borrow from other people?
Yeah, I think I am going to. I think I am going to spend for divine favor with Hecate, if I may, as I'm sort of
absolutely.
directly invoking.
So it'll be 3d6 plus you'll roll a d4.
Sure thing.
So everyone should know their dice. Let's have everybody roll. You take the two highest. And if you have a d4 in that, then you add the value of the d4 to that.
And Lo, when I helped, did I gain a bond or did I spend a bond?
You actually gain a bond.
Okay.
And you gain 1 glory.
Okay.
Oh, that's the wrong window. That would
Formula's
explain
right. Holy moly. Toxophone, what was your result in this?
2 highest, right?
2 highest, yeah.
That's an 8.
It's an 8. And for Melanthius, what is your total? 2 highest plus your d4.
That's a 5 in total.
Ooh. And Calaxis, what about you?
Just check my working on this. So Silver Tongue D6, Calixis D6. I borrowed a D6 from Nasus in arts and oration. Yeah.
Yep.
And then the D8. Okay. So yeah. So that's 2 6s.
2 6s, that's a 12. So there is the thing is when Toxophone and Melanthius also speak to this question of the miners need to turn back to the gods and so on. The miners are put off. Toxophone, what is it that makes them not listen to you in this? What is it? Is it about a manner? Is it about what you say? What do you think doesn't catch their ears?
That I think the Toxophone, yes, it has a manner that she will teach them and train them to defend themselves. Not as easy as hiding underneath the clouds, one would imagine.
So you are a little off-putting in that, and Melanthius?
Yeah, I think in general he's just kind of creeping people out a bit. His exhortations to turn to sorcery are perhaps not the most welcome amongst these simple mining folk, but you know.
Let me talk to you about blood sacrifice. So yeah, you will okay. Both of you will gain a glory. This isn't a situation where you would suffer harm, but clearly you know that the miners are deeply suspicious of both of you now. Like that they're definitely going to be wary of anything that you have to say in that particular thing. But it is Calaxis. How is it that you do, despite your compatriots kind of muddying the waters, as it were, how is it you're able to kind of convince them that they need to turn to the gods?
I think it's a simple cut-through message. You know, you were brought up to believe in the gods delivered us, the gods have protected you for a long time. All you have to do is to hide in the caves for a short time while we get your ring back. It's you know, it's simple cut through. And a silver tongue.
That's the thing is they would like to go back to the way it was. You call on let's go back to the status quo, and they're like, yeah, we like that. And you can tell that Meledia is deeply disappointed by their lack of backbone and the inability to see this opportunity that lies before them. The speeches that she's been giving for a while about why they need to look to their own, and is clearly disappointed. However, the miners listen to you and will certainly speak of your honeyed words, and you will gain 9 glory.
I thank you, my audience.
The miners will kind of head to their places. Speaking of this, they're clearly moving people to go to the caves and so on. Meledia looks disappointed, but you also certainly see that as you kind of have come out for the 4 of you to talk, that the priest Anastes is perhaps disappointed on 2 fronts. One, that you haven't taken care of Meledia. And 2, that rather than suggesting that they all come to the temple and give their gold and support Hera and pushing on that, you've taken a more practical tact that he also seems disappointed with. So
the gods move in mysterious ways, friend priest.
Wonderwall. Nasus, what you are at this moment the leader. So what do you think that after seeing this change of heart and change of direction, where do you think you and your compatriots need to go?
Well, I imagine wherever they had taken the stone to would now have the cover of a storm. So we would be searching for that.
Possibly. They said there was on took it on their pirate ship. And actually, I think what you will get the sense that the stone that they took probably, like the storm isn't always around it because they were able to leave with it. No one mentioned having a storm, so it must require some kind of invocation or control on the part. While it was in the temple, it was carrying out its bidding. But you're a little worried what will happen if this pirate queen does figure out how to use this stone.
All right. Okay, I think that we need to... I have a feeling that they've gone to some ruins and that their hubris will be their destruction. Is there any ruins on this island?
You ask and they will say, well, there is the fallen city of Selipos. That island is perhaps a few hours sail away.
The vision seems like it is pulling me there.
So you wish to gather your crew together and to try and pursue the pirate queen?
Oh yeah, let's get her.
All right. So you will our Toxophone, Calaxis, can remember all these names eventually. Malathius, are you all on board on literally and figuratively with this plan?
Yep.
Yes.
Then I think we will see all of you head back to the ship. You speak to your navigator, and your navigator will turn. You haven't spent that long here. You didn't stay overnight. You merely caught your breath. You fought off the harpies, and you will turn and set out in swift pursuit. You know, the Pirate Queen is probably not too worried because any of the ships that are here on the island would not be able to catch her, but your ship is an entirely different matter, made as it is by your father, Onassis K. Pixie. So you will head out. So this is where we kind of move forward actually to the bigger battle here, where we kind of go to that segment of things. So this is you trying to catch her, trying to drive her down, especially to do it before she can get control of the storms. And this functions a little bit like a standard contest, but a little bit different. For this, let me get to these pages here so I have it right. So what we do to start a battle is we do a clash first. And the clash is where I'm going to describe the circumstances of the battle. Each of you are going to you're going to tell me how you are joining the battle. And then, unlike a normal contest, you're going to choose your domain. And then based on that action, you're going to try to seize the advantage. The winner of the clash is going to get a D10 advantage on the roll in the battle. And that could be kept or given to another player. And we earn things as normal. So you sail out. Toxophone, when we do the sort of Lord of the Rings swoop across as we see the ship going, where do we see you on the vessel?
Toxophone is towards the bow of the ship, her leg on the figurehead with a bow in her hand.
And Calaxis, where do we see you? You among the rowing crew? Or are you at the prow? Or are you up in the sails?
I think I'm by the mast, exhorting the crew to row harder, row faster for the gods.
Calling out that way. Nassus, what about you?
I'll be up in if there is a crow's nest in this ship.
Yeah. To see the equivalent of that, just climb to the mast, and we see you. You have a white beard, right?
Mm-hmm.
See that kind of blowing in the sea breeze there. And then the camera will pan down. Where's Malathius?
Malathius is undercover under the I don't know if they have a proper cabin bit, but sort of under there towards the back of the ship. He has a fish that he has gutted in front of him, and he is staring down at the pattern its entrails make on the decking.
Perfect. And you will see the ship of Thescira, a pirate ship. It's when she sees your vessel skimming across the waves that you hear the shouts to lean to and to try and turn out from this bay that the ruins kind of in the background they're by, to kind of pull out of that to get themselves to a better strategic position as all of you come in, and you will see Thescira is there. She is a legendary pirate queen, and she has at her disposal a loyal band of pirates ready to gnash and tear at you. So we will roll 2d8 for her for this clash. And let me get that. And she has a 7 plus the strife level of 5 means there's a difficulty of 12 for the clash. Now you won't necessarily suffer. You won't suffer for failure on this, but it is a way you want to beat her to gain this advantage and take control of this. So tell me, let's begin. Let's say more. Toxophone, you see this, you see that ship coming. What is it that you're doing? What domain and what action are you taking to gain the advantage in this contest here?
As the ship comes close enough, Toxophone will be using blood and valor. Pure-hearted. She will be pure-hearted in the fact that she does not even want those aboard the ship to face this threat, and will leap with the daring of Hermes across from one ship to another to strike at the pirate queen.
Excellent. So domain, name, epithet, plus invoking the gods for an extra d4. Let's figure out everyone else's dice. Nasus, what are you doing?
So here's the question. Are we even able to replenish divine favors when we spend them?
There are some ways to do that, yes, afterwards.
Okay, cool. So Nasus, the many-wayed, is going to use craft and reason by shouting down below precisely where we should strike the ship with the head of it, the thing that hits things. Yeah.
Or the ramming point.
Yeah,
you will shout that out. You shout to the rowing sides about which, now, 3 beats faster on this side to make the turn, and sail in. It's very difficult. If you've ever played ancient Greek miniature battles, it's very hard to line up the ships. You will turn and sail that in. So that seems like name, epithet, and then domain. So you get those dice for that. And then what about Melanthius?
Yeah. So Melanthius strides along the deck of the ship. His dark robes fluttering around him, as with a flourish he hurls a handful of shark's teeth off the side of the ship, and calls out, Themyscira, for years you have sent men to the bottom of these seas, and now they will rise to take their vengeance against you. And skeletons covered in seaweed and barnacles will start to climb their way up the sides of the ship.
Excellent. So I think name, epithet, and resolve in spirit, right?
Yep, certainly.
And then Calaxis. What is it you do?
I think I'm exhorting the crew. I'm saying as we bear down on the pirate queen, look how ugly they are. Look how poor they are, weak and feeble. And I guess we see, there's a golden glow of perspiration on the mighty thewed body of the crew. And I think I would like to call in my divine favor from Aphrodite. We are going to beauty them to death. We are just so good looking, it's impossible for us to lose. Everyone on this ship looks like a hero.
So epithet, name, domain, and the divine D4. Everybody should roll.
And Lowell, so no matter what you roll, you always just take the 2 highest dice, right?
You take the 2 highest dice, unless you have a D4, in which case you add the D4 to that.
Okay. So if you want, when you're rolling, everyone, if you add K2 after your roll directly after it without a space, it'll just keep the 2 highest and tell you the total. Maybe if you're rolling multiple dice, you have to put it after each one then?
Yeah,
I think so.
I don't think it's done anything particularly for
So
me.
Nasus, what is your total going to be?
Oh, mine is a 9.
A 9. And Calaxis, what is your total going to be?
A striking 6.
Whoa, you did not have a good roll.
I did not.
Taxophony.
Triumphant 12.
That is good. That's going to be just enough to edge it out. And Melanthius?
That would be a 4. The fates are not with me today.
All of you are trying, but it is the ships are kind of not catching as close as you would. The skeletons are being thrown back, but it is Taxophony who does that leap, that Snyder leap across from one boat to the other in slow motion, and is over there amongst them. As we hear that crash, it isn't a full-on ram on the side, but the ships come up close to one another. Nasus, Calaxis, and Melanthius, you will each get 1 glory. But it is Taxophony who will get 12 glory for succeeding in the contest, because that is the difficulty that you match there. So you will realize now what the stakes are. Essentially now I establish 2 things, 2 or 3 things. We're going to stick with 2 for this, for the threat phase. These are the things that if they are not dealt with, are going to cause problems. So you can choose to engage our threat, directly engage the Skira. Taxophony, you get an extra advantage D10 on this next roll. And the 2 disasters that will come is, one is that Theskira has begun to get the power of this stone, as large as it is, in her power. And if not dealt with, she will cause those storms to swamp and turn your boat over. But the other thing you will see is, as this battle is going on, you will see a set of harpies flying past you towards the island, drawn by the blood here and knowing the vulnerability, and they are the other disaster, the disaster that will befall the island. So what we do is each hero player is going to choose whether your hero will participate in the contest to defend against the disasters, or join in the contest to seize control of the battle, set the domain, and stakes of the finale. So who wishes to try and deal with these issues, try to defend? Nasus, let's start with you. Nasus, let's start with you.
So we can deal with any of these threats, right?
Yep.
I would like to... Is it possible to do a roll where I am calling on the divine favor of, I think it's Apollo, who's like sort of the god of fire or something, right? Like divine light and fire and stuff like that.
Yeah, sun comes.
Yeah, the sun. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I'd like. I'd like maybe to call on Apollo with divine favor to have the sun like shine through and sort of blind the harpies.
Okay, so
Perhaps.
you are moving to defend.
Yes.
Calaxis, are you moving to deal with the threat that is posed by the Pirate Queen, or are you moving to defend?
I think I want to delay Thyskeria getting control of the stone.
Okay.
I'm going to talk her out.
So yeah, you'll be working on that. Toxophone, are you more interested in defending or striking here?
I think we've established that Toxophone is more interested in striking.
And what about you, Melanthius?
Melanthius's first instinct would probably have been to defend, but I think we've already got two people on that. Then Melanthius will move forward to deal with the Pirate Queen.
Okay. So here's what we do: is we do a contest to defend. We're going to follow normal contest procedure. You'll get to choose the domain most appropriate to the disaster you're opposing. Each hero who prevails may stop one disaster from happening. So I'm going to roll for the disasters here, and then you can decide how you wish to deal with this. So right now we have the great power of the harpies and the great power of the stone both put against you, but they don't have the D10 advantage here. But it is a 7 with a striped die is a 12 to try and defeat this. Nasus, tell me what you're doing and what you're rolling.
So when I'm calling on the divine favor of Apollo, does that automatically regulate me to a specific domain?
No, what it does is you spend that divine favor and you get to roll a d4, which you're going to add to your 2 highest.
Okay. So I could potentially try to approach invoke like blinding the harpies or whatever with craft and reason.
Absolutely, yeah. You're trying to be crafty about it. This is not a direct threat.
So what I would like to do is call on Apollo's favor, and I use my shield to reflect the light of the sun at the harpies directly.
That seems fair. Let's have you roll.
Alrighty. This would be 2d6 plus 1d8 for my domain plus 1d4.
Yep. And the d4 will be added to your 2 highest.
Alrighty. Ooh, that's pretty good.
I'll say.
So 14, right? And then
that's actually 18, I believe.
oh, because of the 4, yeah.
Yeah. So yes, you will you're called down, you called Apollo, you flash that shield. The harpies will scream as the lights hit them, burning across them, and you will force them back, and you will gain some glory here in just a second. And Calaxis, you're going to attempt to use your skills.
Yeah, can I just clarify? Can you cash in 2 divine favors?
Yes.
Because I think what I think we see is Calaxis leaps into the rigging, and he calls down to Thyskeria. I am silver-tongued Calixis, and I bring to you. So I'm being daring, and this is a cunning plan to distract her. And so I declaim at her all the things that this crew has done, all the things that we have succeeded at, all the gifts that we bring to the battle, just to stop her worrying about the stone. So I think I'm going 2d6 plus arts narration for a d8 and 2d4.
Ooh, spend those points.
Yeah, so that's daring and 1 hearer's cunning gone. So hang on then, so roll 2d6 plus 1d8 plus 2d4. This can't go wrong. That's 6. That's 12. That's 20. I think if I've
That
done that
is
right.
20. So she is shocked. She thought she was taking this from villagers. She thought that she had gotten a hold of the stone, and then suddenly she's hearing these tales of the gods. She's seeing these harpies, this flashing of light. There's this Amazon on her decks, cutting down her people. There are skeletons on the side, and you completely draw her attention away from any kind of concentration that she might had. Whatever ability she had to focus is gone now. You will get 12 glory. Nasus, you will get 6 glory. But now let us deal with clearing the decks to set this final battle. So this is the Seas battle. This is essentially another contest. Toxophone, Melanthius, and what this will be is whoever wins this will get to determine the domain of the finale. We'll get to say what the terms are for that. So Melanthius, tell me how you are doing this to seize control of the battle. What are you doing to do that? And I guess
Yeah. So Melanthius has drawn his blade, which is sharp and curved and vicious looking, and glints off of the light of the sun as he slips across to the other ship, and he darts between the shadows of the sailors on the deck, slicing at them as he goes, and I think he's fought alongside sorry, I'm forgetting names again.
Toxophone
Before, and knows her skill with the bow. So I think he's darting between them, slashing at them, distracting them, but also kind of clearing the way for Toxophone to sort of get a commanding position over the battlefield. So I'd like to I would like to draw on the name of Apollo for acting in a daring fashion, and I will spend all my bonds with Toxophone.
All right, so Toxophone will give you an extra D6 for the name then, and you will gain the extra D4. And then Toxophone, tell us about what you are doing to gain control of this battle.
So, looking upon the distracted and concerned pirate queen, Toxophone draws an arrow from her quiver, pulls back the bow, and shoots the hand that holds the stone.
Excellent. Let's have you and Melanthius roll your dice. The number is 11. You also get that bonus D10 to Toxophone.
Was I getting a bonus dice? And what happened with? Sorry, with
You get an extra D10 because of your
D10,
advantage.
Yeah, got you. Right, cool. That's an 13.
13. And then, and what are your two highest there, Melanthius?
Alas, I only manage a 9.
So you will have to mark a pathos You will gain a glory. Essentially, in the course of this battle, you are pushed back in this. Don't quite match the scale that you need to do this. But Toxophone, you will charge through and will take control of this finale. You will gain 11 glory. You gain 1 glory there, Melanthius. And we move to the finale. You have her on the ropes, literally and figuratively. The ships are shaking. You've driven back the harpies. You've protected your ship from getting washed over. And the finale works like this. Toxophone, you won the contest, so you get to determine the domain that we're about to resolve it in. And what do you want to have happen? What's at stake here? What do we want to have resolved here?
So, I think we know. I think what is at stake is that stone must be taken back so the people will find piety and fear under the gods' eyes.
Sure. So what's going to happen is if you succeed, you'll be able to seize the stone in the defeat of this pirate queen and return it to the temples. Does that seem right?
Mm-hmm.
What domain do you want to resolve this in?
I think that will be blood and valor, as Toxophone draws her sword and tries to sever the hand and take the stone.
All of you may also participate in this in a last chance for glory in this final battle against your pirate queen opponent. The difficulty is an 11 right now. Nassist, do you wish to conflict in this?
Sure, I'll try.
The domain is blood and valor.
I throw my spear.
Okay. And
Whip it.
Calaxis, are you also participating?
I can't not.
Okay.
I don't think that Silver Tongued is going to help me hit her with a slingshot.
Probably not.
So I get name. So 2d6 for blood and valor, and just wondering. No, I think I better work out how we get favors back before I cash any more in. So yeah,
you could spend a
2d6.
pathos to get another die, or you could burn a bond to get a die.
Oh, so were I to burn a bond with Melanthios,
you would get a copy of their name die. If you burn a pathos, you can add in another one of your domains.
Oh, well, I will burn a pathos then in order to get my arts narration in, because I will be singing at her while I hit her with a slingshot.
Okay.
They will arrive in perfect pitch.
Oh, that was bad. And Melanthius?
Yeah, I think Melanthius, as Toxophone comes in with the impressive sword cut, Melanthius appears from behind Themisia and attempts to seize the stone from her hand while she's distracted, and I think I am going to also spend a pathos to invoke my spirit and resolve in spirit in that as he emerges and her shadow sort of swirls around her, and he grasps out with it.
I think that is perfect. And then taxophony.
So how hard is it to get favors back? What's the gig on that?
Let's take a look at that. That's a good point. We'll take a moment to pause and let's see where. Come to that section here. I have it on a tablet, so I'm gonna try and get to that page here. Defined favor is earned in 3 ways: during character creation, in contests that gain the god's attention, and during your voyage between islands. During voyage between islands, heroes make a sacrifice to the gods to earn divine favor. And later on, when we get into deeper contests, there may be things where you'll get divine favor for uses for particular actions. And then where's the advancing thing here? And then you gain glory. When you get 80 glory, you can advance your name die. And then, so probably I'm going to give you just for the sake of this, you'll get 1 divine favor back, just as a point of order from this, and then.
Grand. Okay. And is that D10 still carried or is that spent?
That is spent.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you'll also we'll do a sacrifice at the beginning of next session, which can also gain divine favor. So what do you want to do?
So a point of pathos will give me an extra
domain.
Again, an extra domain. Right. So I will spend the point of pathos, which will be resolve and spirit. Because I think this stone now in her hand she can't control is spitting storm and lightning, and we see the occult manifest. So I think Taxophony steps forward and swipes down with the sword, trying to sever her hand.
Perfect. Have we got everybody's dice calculated for this final finale then, David? Did we get Melanthius's right?
Yeah, I'm also going to spend a point of favor with Hera because it seems appropriate for both the cunning and it's kind of her property we're retrieving. So
yeah. Let's have you all. Let's have you all roll. You want an 11 or better.
Rough day. I already did my time.
Nasus? Calaxis, what did you get?
My top 2 are a 7 and a 4, which I think makes 11.
That is perfect. What about you, Melanthius?
I got a total of 13. No, 11. Sorry,
11. And then what did you get, Taxophony?
10.
10. So I need Calaxius and Melanthony to both roll a d6 to see who gets the highest.
so 4 from me.
Sorry, in the hurly-burly, I miscommanded it.
Okay. Let us continue
I see
this
your
cycle.
4, I raise you 4.
Yes, let's have you both roll. You can see this would be much easier face to face.
It's only a 2 this time.
Okay. So,
The word
Nasus,
is mightier than the sword.
Toxophony, you are probably in there and you're calling on the favors, but her crew is fighting back. You've kind of pushed this on it. You're both going to gain a glory, but you're also both going to suffer a point of pathos in this battle. But you make way for Calaxis and Meliane to do this, and they will seize the day, but it is Calaxis that will bring this to a close. How is it that you bring this to a close, Calaxis?
I think that from my point of vantage, I can see Toxophone aiming for the hand, and I can see Melanthea coming up behind, and I simply swing across and pluck the stone from her hand just before the sword falls and the dagger strikes.
And Calaxis, you have certainly done your duty. You will gain your full 11 glory. Melanthius, you will gain 6 glory. And you will, the pirate ship is swept clean, and we will see you return to your vessel, perhaps some minor structural damage, but with the work that you did, you're able to keep it secure. You kept the harpies from getting back to the island. You will sail back, and you will return this stone to the temple on the island, and you can tell that there is an accommodation, that there is a change, that the leader of the miners does see what the gods can wreak, sees what the three of you and Nasus, who, though not divine of birth, following the will of the gods, what you can do, and realizes that she must not discount the strength and gift of the gods. And you will succeed in your voyage there.
Did I get any glory from the harpies? Defeating the harpies?
Yeah, you. The harpies were a difficulty 11, and I believe that you were.
They were actually 12.
12. So you would have gotten 6 because you were just a little bit lower, because Galaxis slid in and pushed you out there.
Mm.
We will, at the start of next session, we'll go through sort of the end of session stuff to kind of look at that, since we've hit a lot of mechanics today. But we'll walk through that, and then we'll look at the voyage thing, the sort of in between, and we'll move on to another island. Usually I do stars and wishes after the second session, just so we have a couple sessions to see what we liked and stuff. So there's a lot of rolls, a lot of calculations on things, but I appreciate everyone being generous with your time while we got this worked out. Any thoughts, anybody, questions, things you want to say right now before we roll out?
I thought it would be slower than it is.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah, for all the amount of time that the dice rolling did take, I felt like we got a lot done, especially for a first session in. I thought, no, it was really nice, and yeah, I guess it's because the assembling the rolls takes a little bit of time, but you don't, you get so much done without having to go to the dice. So yeah.
And do between now and next time, I'll take a look at the advancement rules and things like that, and healing, all of that. And if there's anything anybody wants to change between now and then, like next week, you're like, oh, I don't like Hera anymore, and you want to change those things around, we can do that. So I'm going to stop recording at this point. Would everybody be okay with me posting this? Okay. All right.